In the earliest days of my fervent youth, I found myself estranged from the predictable path of academia that had been laid before me. College, with its halls of echoing emptiness and rooms filled with the haunting whispers of lectures that drifted into the void, seemed to be a shadow of a life I couldn't bear to lead. The vision of succumbing to the mundanity of a 9-to-5 existence, living day by day in grayscale, haunted my dreams like a relentless specter. I knew deep within the marrow of my bones that I was destined for something greater, something with depth and color, a path where my heartbeat would sync with the raw rhythm of the world. My parents, guardians of tradition and expectation, had their hearts shackled to the quintessential dream of seeing their offspring clad in graduation robes, a beacon of conventional success. Thus, my proclamation of departure from the collegiate path was met with a symphony of despair and bewilderment, a dirge for the dreams that lay in fragments at their feet. Yet, even in the face of their anguish, I couldn't ignore the siren song that beckoned me to carve a path of my own, a path that led to the hallowed halls of the Navy SEALs. As I stood amongst the potential brethren of Bud's Class 237, my resolve was tested and forged in the crucible of grueling trials and relentless pursuits. The journey to earning my SEAL trident was akin to walking through a dark forest, where every step was a dance with shadows that sought to engulf me. And then, one day that seemed to hold the warmth and glow of 1,000 suns, my name echoed through the ranks, a clarion call that marked my transformation. Seaman Brandon Hayes, step forward. The SQT instructor's voice reverberated, a symphony of triumph that soared above the whispers of doubt. As the trident was pinned upon me, amidst the smiles and salutes that stitched us together into a fraternity of warriors, I glimpsed my parents in the crowd. Their faces, once etched with worry and disdain, now mirrored the pride and awe that blossomed within my chest, a testament to the journeys that sometimes needed to be forged against the current. The passage of time seemed to accelerate, a whirlwind of deployments and bonds forged in the heat of battlefields that spanned across the undulating terrains of the Middle East. Helen, a beacon of love and grace, entered my life, intertwining our destinies in a tapestry of love that blossomed amidst the chaos. Together, we embarked on the journey of parenthood, an adventure that promised to be as exhilarating and profound as my military expeditions. The camaraderie I fostered with my squad, a band of brothers united in purpose and spirit, became an anchor, a living testament to the depths of human connection and resilience. Yet, as the ember of contentment began to glow steadily within our circle, a chilling breeze threatened to extinguish the flames of peace we had kindled. It arrived in the form of an ominous call that pierced the mirthful veil of a reunion soaked in laughter and reminiscences. Lieutenant Shipley's voice, usually a herald of orders and strategies, bore an unsettling note of urgency that day. As the fire crackled and popped, a precursor to the storm that lay on the horizon, we gathered around the voice that emanated from the speakerphone, a harbinger of the trials that lay ahead. The mission, centered on the sun-drenched lands of Panama, beckoned us once again into the embrace of danger, into the murky waters of illegal trade routes and shadows that threatened to engulf the continent. Incredulity and disbelief danced amongst us, as the news of our impending deployment sowed seeds of unrest within our ranks. Voices rose and fell, a cacophony of confusion and frustration that echoed the turmoil within our hearts. Yet, as warriors forget in the crucible of adversity, we knew that the call of duty was a mistress that refused to be ignored, a siren song that pulled us once again into the chaotic dance of duty and sacrifice. Thus, as the sun kissed the horizon a week later, we found ourselves aloft, bound for the verdant landscapes of Panama, ready to face the shadows that lurked within its depths, united in purpose and resolve, a testament to the relentless spirit of the SEALs. In the sultry heart of Panama, a place where nature's cacophony resounded with an intensity that seemed almost malevolent, our senses were besieged from the very moment we alighted. The oppressive humidity clung to us, a suffocating embrace that threatened to siphon away our sanity. Insects with voracious appetites and incessant hums became our constant companions, whispering tales of despondency in our ears, seemingly seeking to fracture the fortitude of even the most stoic warriors amongst us. The surroundings bore a sense of decay, a malignant aura that seemed to permeate every nook and cranny of our temporary abode, nestled amidst the jungle's dark heart. As we settled into our Spartan accommodations, a pervasive sense of foreboding slithered amongst us, threading through our conversations and nesting within our thoughts. Anderson, our team's medic, echoed the sentiments that hovered at the periphery of our collective consciousness, giving voice to the uncertainty that lay as a heavy mantle upon us all. Yet, despite the looming shadows, the pull of fatigue was too potent to resist, drawing us into its embrace as the darkness swallowed us whole. The still of night was shattered abruptly by the urgent summons of Lieutenant Shipley. His voice echoed in the pre-dawn hours, a discordant note that jarred me from the arms of Morpheus. Rubbing the remnants of sleep from my eyes, I glanced at the clock whose hands seemed to have raced through the night, stopping prematurely at a time where the world should still be ensconced in slumber. A groan of protest escaped my lips, an articulation of the resentment that flickered, albeit briefly, in the face of authority. Yet, Shipley was as immovable as the mountains that framed our location, a stalwart figure who enforced the mandates handed down from above. Grudgingly, we roused, fueling our bodies with morsels that promised to keep the tendrils of exhaustion at bay, at least for a while. The briefing room awaited, a cramped space where the gravity of our mission would unfold, under the watchful gaze of an unknown general who bore the weight of command upon his shoulders. As the quartet of us, Patrick, Michael, Anderson, and myself, huddled within the room's confining walls, the gravity of our mission began to crystallize. We were to venture deep into the underbelly of the jungle, navigating through the wild and unforgiving terrain to a location where shadows danced and illicit activities breathed life. A tunnel, a suspected vein in a network of illicit trade, beckoned us with its dark maw, urging us to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within its depths. Our orders were as clear as the morning sun that would soon rise above the horizon, to watch, to document, and to bear witness to the transactions that unfolded in the murky shadows. Positioned from a vantage point where nature provided a cloak of invisibility, our task seemed simple, yet carried the weight of immense responsibility. A chorus of affirmation met the general's final query, a testament to our unity and resolve. Yet, amidst the clarity of our purpose, elements of strangeness continued to weave through the tapestry of our mission. Shipley, usually a beacon of steadiness, bore the armor and demeanor of a warrior preparing to step into the fray. His presence on this operation, a deviation from the norm, cast ripples of unease that resonated with the unsettling vibes that seemed to permeate our surroundings. The whispers of disquiet grew louder amongst us, giving voice to the unease that had nestled within our spirits since our arrival. Anderson shared tales of surreptitious glances and hushed conversations that seemed to follow his movements, a spiderweb of secrecy that seemed to ensnare us all. Yet despite the growing sense of foreboding, duty called with a voice that refused to be silenced. As the leader, I rallied my brothers in arms, urging them to cloak themselves in the armor of determination and resilience. With a heavy heart, I led them towards the awaiting helicopter, a mechanical beast that promised to ferry us towards the heart of darkness that awaited. As we soared above the jungle canopy, the minutes seemed to stretch into an eternity, a surreal voyage that culminated in the revelation of the monstrous edifice that lay hidden amongst the trees. The tunnel, an ancient behemoth that seemed to have witnessed the passage of centuries, beckoned with a dark maw that hinted at secrets steeped in the annals of time. Its formidable entrance seemed to defy reality, a portal into a world where darkness held dominion. We descended at a distance, a tactical move to cloak our presence from prying eyes that might lurk within the shadows. With hearts pounding in sync with the rhythm of the jungle, we prepared to delve into the mysteries that lay before us, ready to face the unknown with the courage and tenacity that defineth the spirit of a seal. Once we were delivered to our assigned location, we began a laborious trek through the underbrush, maneuvering through the dense foliage and untamed land to reach our destined outpost. When we arrived at the appointed spot, we hastily commenced the unloading of our equipment, each of us possessing tools vital for the success of our mission. Anderson was equipped with a pair of binoculars that promised to bring the faraway close. Patrick wielded a long-ranged rifle, enhanced with a zoomed-in scope that vowed to reveal secrets hidden in the shadows. Michael had armed himself with a camera and a notepad, prepared to capture and document the unfolding narrative. As for myself, I was entrusted with the lifeline of communications, or comms, as we affectionately termed it, a role that promised to keep us connected amidst the uncertainty. For the initial 5 hours, time seemed to stretch interminably, each second dripping slowly like molasses, as we maintained a vigil over the tunnel's entrance. Yet, despite our perfect vantage point, the scene before us remained stagnant, devoid of movement or life. The golden tendrils of the sun eventually unfurled across the sky, marking the passage of time and bringing with it a burgeoning discomfort. Realizing the potential length of our watch, I proposed the implementation of a rotating sleep schedule, a strategy to preserve our strength and vigilance. With mutual agreement, we decided that 2 would rest, while 2 remained on alert, ready to rouse the sleepers should any significant activity transpire. Michael and Anderson volunteered for the initial watch, allowing Patrick and me to succumb to the sweet embrace of slumber, a respite that my weary body welcomed gratefully. In the midst of a dreamless sleep, a sudden violent shake jolted me back to reality. My eyes flew open to meet Anderson's frantic gaze, his voice piercing the silent night with urgency. Confusion swirled within me, a maelstrom intensified by the glaring absence of Michael from our tight-knit group. A flurry of questions burst forth, desperate for understanding amidst the chaos. Anderson's explanation sent cold tendrils of fear snaking down my spine. Michael had ventured into the ominous tunnel that beckoned with its dark allure. A trance-like state seemed to have ensnared him, pulling him inexorably towards the unknown depths. Despite Patrick's initial drowsiness, the gravity of the situation snapped him to full alertness, the instinct to protect our brother overtaking any previous reservations. Torn between the dictates of our orders and the fierce loyalty that bound us, we hesitated. The decision, however, crystallized before us, as Patrick seized his rifle and sprinted towards the tunnel, his resolve echoing loudly in the silent forest. With hearts pounding and minds swirling with apprehension, Anderson and I followed suit, our own rifles grasped firmly in hand. As we neared the gaping maw of the tunnel, its true nature began to reveal itself. A grotesque display of stalagmites and stalactites adorned its entrance, a forewarning of the dark path that delved deep into the bowels of the earth. A realization dawned upon us. This was no man-made structure, but a cave that bore the marks of time and nature's untamed forces. Our initial mission seemed to crumble before the eerie and inexplicable facade of the cave. Doubts mingled with fear as we stood at the threshold, uncertain yet united in our resolve to rescue Michael from whatever horrors lay within. Drawing upon a courage forged in the fires of brotherhood, we ignited the flashlights affixed to our rifles and embarked upon a descent into darkness. The cave's interior bore witness to its ancient origins, the initial passageways devoid of any markers of human presence. Yet, as we ventured deeper, the cave began to share its secrets, unveiling disturbing murals that adorned its rocky walls. At first, we observed primitive drawings depicting creatures from bygone eras, their majestic forms frozen in time. But soon, these images gave way to chaos, a crescendo of violent scribbles that seemed to narrate a descent into madness. Our journey into the depths brought us face to face with imagery that defied logic and understanding. Emerging amidst the chaotic scribbles was the representation of a grotesque entity, a being that combined the horrors of the deepest ocean with the ferocity of mythical beasts. Its tentacles writhed in grotesque harmony with dragon-like wings, a visage crowned with horns, and completed with a lizard-like tail. The true horror, however, lay in the tableau that surrounded this creature. Depictions of humans engaged in fervent worship, bowing before this monstrous deity in unholy reverence, filled us with a growing sense of dread. Further exploration revealed darker scenes, narratives of human sacrifice and gruesome offerings that painted a tale of ancient horrors and unholy alliances. Our discourse on these chilling discoveries was suddenly fractured by a scream that echoed through the cave's hollowed chambers, a sound that bore the unmistakable timbre of Michael's voice. Panic surged within us, overriding any lingering fears as we dashed towards the source of the scream, stumbling through the rocky terrain with frantic urgency. Our mission had shifted, no longer defined by orders from above, but by the primal need to protect our own, to face the darkness together and reclaim our lost brother from the clutches of the unknown. Throughout the desperate pursuit, our voices echoed hauntingly in the cavernous depths, yelling affirmations of our approach, cries thick with a blend of fear and desperate hope. "We're on our way, Michael." "Hold on, buddy." Yet, beneath the fervor, A gnawing sense of dread took root within me, whispering ominous premonitions of doom that mirrored Michael's fate. But surrender to despair was not an option. Leaving Michael behind, whether dead or alive, was unthinkable. Michael had been my comrade, my brother in arms, since the inception of our strenuous journey through SEAL training. Those bonds, forged in the crucible of the most challenging circumstances, were unbreakable. Driven by a surge of determination, we propelled ourselves further into the depths of the cave, hearts pounding in sync with our hastened footsteps. The suffocating darkness soon gave way to a grisly revelation, stopping us cold in our tracks. Patrick's whispered exclamation echoed the horror that congealed in our veins at the sight before us. There lay Michael, or what was once him, now nothing more than a grotesque tableau of death. His body, a mangled testament to the viciousness of the cave's denizens, was barely recognizable. Only the metallic glint of his dog tag, a solitary beacon amidst the carnage, confirmed the identity of our fallen brother. Transfixed, we could do nothing but stare at the remnants of a life violently extinguished, a chilling testimony to the nightmare that unfolded in this accursed place. Before grief could fully take hold, a resounding crash reverberated through the expansive, dome-like chamber we had unwittingly entered. An adrenaline-fueled pivot had us facing the source of the sound, only to be met with a sight that transformed my deepest fears into grotesque reality. There it stood, the creature of legend and horror, brought to life from the unholy drawings on the cave walls. Its staggering size dominated our field of vision, a 40-foot monstrosity draped in shadows, save for the blood-red hue that emanated from its malevolent eyes. Its maw, a horrific array of jagged teeth, gaped open to reveal a darkness as endless and unforgiving as the abyss itself. From its hunched back sprouted numerous squid-like tentacles, flanked by dragon-esque wings that threatened to engulf us in darkness. The creature was crowned by a mane of long black hair that fell around a face that bore a sickening resemblance to humanity, yet was devoid of any semblance of compassion or reason. No sooner had we registered its presence, a raspy growl echoed through the cave, a sound so visceral it sent tremors through the very foundations of the earth. And then, as if summoned by the creature's call, they emerged from the shadows. Legions of individuals, their numbers surging into the thousands, converged upon us with frenzied intent. Garbed in bone and adorned with intricate body paint, their appearance was as horrifying as the creature that presided over this hellish domain. Panic surged within us, igniting a primal instinct to survive. "We need to leave now," I screamed, desperation lending volume to my voice. But Patrick and Anderson seemed frozen, held captive by the terrifying spectacle before us. Time seemed to warp, stretching moments into eternity, until a deafening shriek from the creature snapped us back into terrifying reality. With agility belying its size, a tentacle shot forth, ensnaring Patrick within its crushing grasp before dragging him screaming into the yawning maw that awaited him. Adrenaline fueled us, banishing paralysis as I seized Anderson, urging him to flee. Together we dashed, desperate to escape the clutches of the advancing horde. Gunfire erupted in the echoing chamber as I fired wildly into the crowd, creating a temporary path of salvation. Heart pounding, lungs burning, we raced through the narrow gap, narrowly avoiding the grasping hands that sought to drag us into darkness. Risking a glance back, I saw Anderson keeping pace, determination etched across his face. Together, we navigated the nightmarish labyrinth, guided only by a desperate need to escape. Our path forward was fraught with uncertainty, each turn a gamble in our bid to find the entrance that promised freedom. Hope blossomed anew as daylight pierced the gloom, beckoning us with the promise of safety. Yet even as salvation seemed within grasp, danger pursued us relentlessly. A glance over my shoulder revealed a tide of pursuers, their numbers undiminished by the distance we had covered. In a desperate bid to stem the tide, I hurled a frag grenade into their midst, the resulting explosion a symphony of screams and chaos that bought us precious seconds. But even amidst the temporary reprieve, a demonic screech resounded from the depths, a chilling reminder of the creature that ruled this dark kingdom. Fear lent wings to our feet as we burst forth into the daylight, a frantic sprint that only ceased when the cave lay a substantial distance behind us. As we paused, breathless and shaken. A final glance back revealed the creature, its hellish visage etched against the cave's entrance, a dark sentinel watching our retreat. For what felt like an eternity, we stood transfixed, caught in the creature's malevolent gaze. With a final screech that echoed across the landscape, it retreated into the darkness, leaving us haunted by the horrors witnessed within its domain. Anderson and I, united in shock and grief, could do nothing but retreat, driven by an overwhelming desire to distance ourselves from the accursed place. As we found momentary sanctuary, we collapsed, exhaustion overtaking us. Words failed us, replaced by a heavy silence that bore the weight of loss and the haunting knowledge of the evil that lurked within the cave's depths. There, in our silent vigil, we mourned the loss of our brother, a void that could never be filled, a wound that would never heal. After we managed to escape the immediate vicinity of the cave, a palpable and heavy silence descended upon us. The only sounds that perforated the dense quietude were our labored breaths and the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot. Time seemed to lose meaning, stretching infinitely as we remained in our secluded sanctuary, gripped by a mutual, unspoken dread of the journey that lay ahead. As the twilight deepened, casting elongated shadows that merged with the encroaching darkness, Anderson seemed to awaken from his stunned stupor. "What time is it?" he asked, his voice betraying the slightest quiver. With trembling hands, I pulled out my mobile and checked, realizing that the hour was now 8:30 in the evening. Our extraction was scheduled for just half an hour later. A palpable sense of urgency now tinged our conversation as we discussed our route to the extraction point. Summoning a well of inner strength, I turned towards Anderson, my voice echoing slightly in the still evening air. "Do you remember where the exfiltration point was?" I inquired, desperate to cling to any semblance of a plan amidst the chaos that had become our reality. Anderson paused, his eyes scanning the dark surroundings before nodding affirmatively. "Yeah, during our frantic escape, I managed to keep a mental map of our whereabouts. The helicopter should be landing about 5 miles to the west of our current location." His voice carried a hint of optimism, a flicker of hope that spurred us into motion. With newfound determination, we trudged through the forest, the looming trees offering both a shield from potential pursuers and a reminder of the horrors that lay behind us. Eventually, the distant thump of helicopter blades reached our ears, a sweet symphony promising salvation. As we broke through the tree line and stumbled upon the clearing where the helicopter sat, we were met with the exasperated yet relieved faces of the crew. "What took you guys so long? We were moments away from leaving without you, and where are the others?" the pilot demanded, his face etched with concern and frustration. Unable to find words to encapsulate the nightmare we had experienced, I could only offer a blank, haunted expression. An understanding passed between us, and the pilot nodded solemnly before ushering us aboard, the blades whipping into a frenzy as we took off, leaving the forsaken place far behind. Upon our arrival at the headquarters, we were immediately ushered into a sterile room, the stark contrast to the dark cave almost surreal. There, we were met by a group of stern-faced officials and the general who had initially briefed us on the mission. Their faces wore masks of pity and regret, the weight of the disastrous operation apparent in their slumped postures. A suited man pushed forward, exhaling a heavy sigh before speaking. "Here is $100,000 for each of you," he said as he slid thick envelopes across the table to us. "Please, I implore you, let this incident remain buried in the past." They departed, leaving us with the general, who regarded us with sadness and regret painted across his face. He informed us that arrangements had been made for our return home on the morrow, and that options for an early retirement from the military were available to us. The heaviness of the offer settled upon us, a tangible reminder of the gruesome ordeal that had stripped away our innocence and forever marked our souls. Now, in the present day, I find myself navigating life as a 46-year-old man, blessed to share my journey with my loving wife, Helen, and our radiant 17-year-old daughter, Samantha. Anderson remains a pillar in my life, a comrade with whom I share an unspoken bond that transcends friendship. Together, we sometimes find solace in shared moments of grief and remembrance, gathering around a bonfire to reminisce and mourn the loss of our brave companions, Patrick and Michael. My heart is eternally marred by a deep-seated resentment towards the government and the military institution that I once served with pride. The betrayal and deceit, the reckless endangerment of lives for a cause shrouded in secrecy and horror, have forever tainted my view of service. When confronted by my wife about the fate of Patrick and Michael, I find myself weaving tales of a faraway battlefield in Afghanistan, unable to bring myself to unveil the true horrors that unfolded in that forsaken cave. Haunted by relentless nightmares, a grim testament to the psychological scars etched deep within, I find myself waking in cold sweats, gasping for breath amidst the suffocating darkness. I offer up vague explanations, attributing my distress to past experiences in the Middle East, a convenient, albeit partially false, narrative to shield my loved ones from the gruesome reality. Bound by the government's mandate to maintain silence, I find myself living a lie, unable to seek solace in the truth. A looming fear of being branded as insane accompanies the suffocating weight of the secret I bear. Yet I find that the burden has grown too heavy to bear alone, a dark cloud that threatens to consume me from the inside out. And so, I find myself here, desperate to release the demons that have held me captive for so long. To anyone who might stumble upon my account, I implore you to heed my warning. Forsake any aspirations of joining the Navy SEALs or the military at large. Above all, avoid the malevolent darkness that lies within the Darien Gap in Panama. Within those depths lurk horrors beyond comprehension, evils that mankind was never meant to witness. Please, for your own sake, stay far away from that cursed place.